What's going on, guys? Today we got a 2004 Outback, the H6 3.0. We're going to be doing spark plugs and valve covers. Let me get some of these off. I'll show you how to get them off. All right, first of all, we're going to get this off with 2 10s. Pull out this way, it'll come off. These 2 clips, that clamp right there, flathead or a screwdriver. And then we got 4 10s for this big cover. We're going to take all that off and see what we're working with. With that all removed, we got more room. We're gonna go ahead and take this air filter out, and down here, gonna be right there. Another one on the other side, down there. Take those 2 12s out, this air box will come out. With that removed, that gives us access to this cover, but before we do that, we're gonna go ahead and disconnect the battery since we have to remove a ground over there. So we're gonna take the battery out and the tray out, and we're probably gonna end up taking that reservoir out to get some more room over here. Now that we got this battery tray out, we can go ahead and take a look down here, see our lovely valve cover and all the leaks that it's had. I'm also going to be doing spark plugs on this, like I said, so it's going to show you right here, those 3 ignition coils. And then on this side, we have this plate right here. There's 4 10s, it's going to be right, or not 10s, look like 12s right here, right there, right here, and right here. That one has a ground on it. Make sure to put that on when you're putting everything back together, or else there's going to be some problems. Okay, so this cover, there's 2 bolts on the side down here, and these 2 bolts are going to be longer bolts. So the longer bolt's going to go here. This one with the ground strap, that's going to be a 10 millimeter. With all those off, we should be able to just slide it out this way. Do a little finagling. Oh, stuck on the hose here. And she should come out like so. And then we're gonna have a lot more access to that whole valve cover. So on the other side, what we got, the side's a little bit more cramped. This is that cover we just took off on the passenger side. Now, I'm going to unclip these lines. I'm going to try and bungee cord them out of the way, probably up to the hood or something like that, just to give me a little bit more room. There's 2 clips right here that you're just going to pop off with the trim tool. Pop those clips out, and there is a breather hose right here. It connects all the way to here, to this box. And it goes down, and that's the breather for the valve cover. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove that hose just to give me more room. I think if you just removed it from the valve cover, you would be fine, but I like to have a lot of room when I work on stuff. I already got these clips off, and if your clip breaks like this one did, breaks in there, don't worry about it, it's not too vital. So we got a bolt right here. That also has a ground on it, so make sure to put that ground back on. Like the other side, we have a bolt right here, bolt here, and a bolt right there. Now those are the only bolts I'm seeing so far for this cover, and hopefully those are the only ones, because back here it's kind of a jumble of hoses and wires and everything. So thankfully these 4 bolts made it loose, but however this hose back here is another hose that we're gonna have to remove in order to get this cover off. Ended up taking off this hose, this one that goes from the box to the valve cover, the breather. Ended up tucking it up in here out of the way. But yeah, I'm gonna remove this hose, and then we should be able to slide this off and get a better view. Okay, so I got that hose out. This is now loose. All I did was just kind of push this harness down, and I pulled it this way. I also unbolted these 2 10s so I can just kind of move the washer reservoir where I need it to go. And it'll be kind of hard to do with one hand, but basically just move this up, pry this way, and it should just slide it this way. So I ended up taking out these 2 bolts that go right here. This holds these 2 brackets on, so I can move this harness a little bit and make a mess with all the washer fluid. And I should be able to now just push up on the harness. This will come out just like that. Hopefully you're smart and don't make a mess like I just did. So these down here, I'm gonna try and get it to where you're gonna be able to see it. But you get on this clip, you push till you hear that click, and you just pull it back. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. Another little tip, once you get the bolt all the way out, the bolt actually stays with the coil, so you can just pry on the bolt and then the coil pack will come out with it. And since it's so small, it's a little easy on the front ones. The back ones are kind of a different story, but we'll get to that when we do that. So we got 2 of the coil packs out. For that back one, what I've been using has just been like flex head 1/4 inch with a short 12, working pretty well. The back one, the harnesses are kind of getting in the way, so we're just going to go ahead and take this bracket off. This bracket's got 110 right here and 110 right there. So those 2 10s, when you take it off, this whole black bracket will come off, and hopefully we can flip it up. Right here, all you're going to do is just pry down on this tab till you hear a little click, feel it release, and then you're going to pry this side or pull this side out. Always pull by the connector. But yeah, I'll check back with you. Okay, and with those 2 10s removed, I just kind of move the washer bottle out of my way. I go down here, and bracket kind of fell down, so I'm going to try to gently bring it up and tuck it away without bending the wires too much. Something close to that, so we can get access to the bolts, and this will be in our way to take out the valve cover. So what I did is I got the harness for all the 3 coils, kind of just tucked it up in here really gently. It's kind of an old car, so whenever you're gonna deal with old harnesses, don't pull too hard, take your time. Bad things happen when you try and rush things, so take your time. But since we already undid this bracket, we can kind of move this harness down there, right there. We have a lot better access to our 12mm. Now, there probably is a way that you can do this without removing everything I have removed, but like I said before, I like a lot of room when I work on things. I'm a bigger guy. My hands aren't as small as some other people, so I like to have as much room as possible. So what I did with the bottom coil down there, after I got it out, I pried it out and I kind of let it fall down, and I pushed it this way towards the front of the car, and now we should be able to just take the coil out, keep moving it forward, and you get a little wider gap, and it comes right out. Now we're going to start taking off all the bolts on top here until we're going to have to raise the vehicle and get the ones on the bottom, but looks like we got one here, should be 4 on top. There's gonna be some in the middle. Okay, so we got the first 6 bolts out. The top 4 bolts gonna be right here, and right there, and right here. Then there's gonna be 2 middle bolts, one right down there I'm trying to focus on, and there's going to be one right here. Now this bolt's on the front, towards the front of the engine, front of the car. That one's going to be smaller than all the other ones. So we have normal size bolts, and then that one's a small one. So make sure to put that one back in its spot so you don't mess up anything with torquing and everything like that. Next step is going to be getting these bottom 4 bolts. I believe there's only 4 on the bottom, maybe there's 5. I think there's only 4 though. And for that, we're going to lift the vehicle, go ahead and get those, and then after that, I'm hoping we're going to be able to sneak it out up top here. Actually, what we're first going to do before going under the car, we're just going to get this side to the same spot. So there's this 10 and that 10, same O2 connector, coils, the plugs. The only difference on this side is this harness goes into the fuel injectors. This is the harness that fuel injectors connect to. So depending on how much play we have, if we can move it up, we shouldn't have to disconnect these, but there's a possibility we would, but I'll let you know. Okay, so we got coils out and the bracket off, this bracket, but I was gonna move this up a little bit, but I feel like it's just gonna put too much stress on that harness. So what we're gonna do is just disconnect these 3 fuel injector harnesses, and all you do is at the bottom there's a tab. You go there and you pinch, wiggle, pull. and everything. So it can come right off. And then we should be able to have a lot more room here. And hopefully I might just get a little bungee cord and just bungee cord this like that so it's not in the way of us bringing the valve cover in and out and getting all the bolts and everything. But now it's time to move on to the bottom to get everything else that we need to get these off. All right, so I got the car up in the air. I took off this skid plate. There's just 2 bolts there and a bolt over there, a bolt here. And this is what we're looking like. This is the bottom side of our driver's side valve cover. And as you can see, it's leaking pretty bad. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 way back there. Don't know if you can see, yeah, it's right back there. So this side's gonna be fun. We're gonna have to take these bolts out and take out this nut for the motor mount. And what you'll do is you'll just get a jack, or for me, I'll get a screw jack. I'm gonna lift the engine up to give me enough clearance to get that rear bolt. But before we do this side, let's do the easier side, which is gonna be the passenger side. We'll do that one first, just to see how this side goes. And we'll do the plugs on this side and give you an update from there. Okay, so we got these 4 bolts out, and there's a bracket bolt right there, that's a 10. Take that out. Now, since this motor is flat and not in line or a V, a lot of oil sits in this. So make sure to have a catch pan or something ready. Catch all the oil from when you crack this loose. I'm gonna crack it loose and show you guys the best way to get it out. We got it separated. There was actually one more bolt right there that I didn't see before. There's another short one. So we got another short bolt, and this is towards the front of the motor, that's towards the rear. And now it's broke loose. Should be able just to move this harness out of the way. It should slide right down here, just like that. Okay, this side is out. All I did with it is it was down here. I pushed it back and kept tilting down, and then it just slid out, just like that. This is the old one. This is the valve cover. We already got the old gasket out of it, so I'm gonna clean it up, put the new gasket in, and mount it back in there. Okay, now we're moving on to the other side. This clip right here, just gonna pop that up. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna just do these 2 nuts. These are 17 millimeter. And then right at the bottom of this motor mount, there's a nut right there. Gonna be a 14 millimeter. Go ahead and take those 3 nuts off. I wanna get a jack and a piece of wood and put it on the pan. And then you're gonna lift the motor just a little bit to get to that back bolt. So with these 2 disconnected and that nut disconnected, you jack up the engine a little bit to get enough room to get to that rear bolt. Probably gonna be looking at like a 1/4 inch socket and a 1/4 inch ratchet with a 10 swivel. Okay, so once again, we got this piece unbolted, these 2 bolts, or those 2 nuts, excuse me, and this nut got unbolted right here on the motor mount. I moved the engine up, and we've got this valve cover out, and it came out the exact same way as the last one did. Pushed it up, pushed it back, tilted it down, it came right out. So we got the valve covers off. This side is going to be the driver's side because it only has 1 hole on each side. Now the passenger side, if you remember, this is the bolt that we didn't see. So this side is the passenger side because it has 2 holes right here beside the driver's side. But what you're going to do is just going to take your new seals and gaskets. I already cleaned these up from the parts washer and I dried them out brake clean, but you want to make sure there's nothing in these crevices. And once they're all cleared everything, what you're going to want to do, get your gasket, set it in there, just like so, push it down, don't force it in, make sure it's even all the way down. That's going to make sure it's going to get a good seal, nothing's going to leak. Do that for all of these, and then we'll start making sure that everything goes back together. Okay, so we got all the gaskets on here, and these gaskets, of course, they're gonna only go on one way, so it's impossible to mess them up. One's gonna have 2, one's gonna have 1. Pretty easy. Everything is flat. Now, we're gonna try and sneak these in, and hopefully these gaskets don't come off. If they do, we might put a little bit of RTV on there. And for the spark plugs, I've been using this really small spark plug socket. Allows me to get in there on the bottom and snap onto it right there, get a ratchet, and then spit it out. Now I've already got the spark plugs out of that, but just figured I'd show you how I did it. This set is from Matco, but it's just rebranded gear wrench. I think it's on Amazon for like 70 bucks. This is a must have for this job. Okay, so we got new spark plug on the socket. Gonna go up there, just kind of feed it in. And then we're gonna tighten it all the way by hand for all 3 of these. And then we're just gonna get them snug. We don't wanna over torque these. Not too sure what torque spec is. I'll look it up real quick, but usually just snug will be good. If it's super specific, like, 106 inch-pounds or something, then we'll bring out the torque wrench, but I don't even know if my torque wrench will fit in this gap, but we'll see what happens. All right, so we got a spark plug torque of 15 foot-pounds. So we can just get that on there. It's already hand threaded, and we're just gonna go snug it up just like that. We'll do that for all 3. Snugged up. And the third one, right here. Just snug it up. Do that for all your spark plugs. If you're doing spark plugs, highly recommend doing them when the valve covers are out, because just gives you a little bit more clearance. So if you're doing valve covers, might as well do the spark plugs. And yeah, now we should be all set. After we clean some of this material off, clean these faces, we should be all set to get the valve cover up and in there. Okay, so we got this valve cover in. Just kind of sitting there on that one bolt, and I went and got that back bolt in. Make sure to connect up these subframe nuts before you connect up this nut again on this motor mount, because with the engine up, it's going to strip out the studs and all the threads and everything. So make sure to put the subframe up before you do the engine mount. And then we're going to try and do the other side, and then I'll put up a picture of the torquing procedure and the torque spec. So I'll do that off camera just so it's not boring. But okay, so we got valve covers on, everything is torqued, all bolts are torqued on both sides. When you are first putting them in from the bottom, you almost have to go completely vertical. Just like how they came out is exactly the opposite of how to put them back in. And just take your time, be careful, make sure to check all the grooves in here where your gasket is to make sure that there's no crushing or it's poking out or it bent back. Sometimes they fall out and stuff, and last thing you want to do is do a job twice. So just do your due diligence and double check everything. Right now we're just going to start putting these brackets back on, connecting up the fuel injectors. Before we do that, actually, so with everything off, or I guess valve covers back on, still everything off, we're going to put our coils back in. Then after that, we can throw on these 2 bolts for this bracket, connect up our fuel injectors and our coils, and we should be pretty close to getting this job done here. Don't forget to put this bracket back on with this small 10 mil you had. We'll put that on, and then we'll route up our O2 sensor to the connector, put it in that clip on both sides, and we should be almost done. When you put it back together, make sure you don't forget your grounds on either side with this cover. Now what we're going to do is get the air box in, battery in, mount up the windshield washer again, and get this little scoop in, get the plastic battery tray, and just kind of tidy up. We're going to take these cables, so just kind of stuck there. If I can just pull that out a little bit, and those will go back and clip onto the hoses they were on before. just like so. This one goes to this kind of bigger main heater hose. This one will clip on to this one down here, just like that. And we got all that situated, and what we're gonna do, put these 2 bolts back in for the brackets, and I'll let you know how it goes. Got the engine running. Everything is good. We got no leaks. Got some smoke coming from the exhaust because, well, we got a little PB blaster on there, but we're all good.